Well, the first thing that I actually want to show you is how to open an image, believe it or not. And for those of you that already know this, maybe it's a good time to cut your toenails or something, but actually it's the advanced people that are the worst offenders of the double click, the old double click. So in this class, forget about it. No more double click. There's two ways that I want to see you open your images. One, I have 6 donuts here. I'm going to highlight all of them just by dragging down. One is that you can just simply drag the donuts into the Photoshop icon, the PS blue box, or most people are comfortable with just right-clicking them and going to open with Adobe Photoshop CS4. And this allows you to know what program is opening your images. Otherwise, the double click could be opening in Preview, could be opening in iPhoto, who knows what is opening your images, and then you just have to close it and reopen it in Photoshop. So I think in the long run, to do it right saves you time. So here we go. I'm going to take a second to open half a dozen donuts here. And as they're opening, you'll notice that they're opening in one window, and they're actually located under each of these tabs that I'm clicking through. And a lot of people who are used to old versions of Photoshop are really annoyed by this, because in some ways, although I do think it helps you to organize and not have a lot of images out, that really, if I'm going to just go through and view imagery, I would usually do that using Adobe Bridge and not use these tabs. And ultimately, when I have images open on the desktop, I'm usually trying to compare them or combine them. And so this kind of method where you can't have multiple images side by side just really doesn't work for that. It's just good for viewing. So there's a couple new places where arranging your workspace has become more convenient. It was always located under Window Arrange, and you could do everything that you can do in these new icons. But now there's this new thing called the application bar up here, and there's an icon called Arrange Documents. So in this case, there's cute little pictures instead of words, and I have half a dozen donuts, so I'm going to click on the cute picture that says 6 up, and you have to click, oops, I always do this. You have to actually click on it and see how it tiled these up, so that now I can take a look at which one do I want to use, or if I want to put 3 donuts in one picture, I can drag and drop them. So it makes them all available instead of hiding behind each other. And a couple more things that have been made convenient by this icon are, let me arrange one of these in a different zoom. And by the way, as I click in each one, you'll notice, see how I'm zooming on different ones. What that does is only one window can be active at a time. So basically, you want to click and you'll see that the ribbon up at the top becomes darker, and that tells you that's your active window. So let's say I take this one and go to a zoom that I like where I can see the whole image, and then what I'm going to do is go up to this Arrange Documents icon and say Match Zoom, and you can see that just really quickly it matches the zoom on every picture, which in this case is 7.96%. Excuse me. So now I'm going to show you something similar, but this is I'm going to zoom in on one donut here and go to just one spot on the donut and take a look at these delicious nut fragments on this donut. And then I'm going to go up here and match the zoom with all the other pictures. But you'll notice that it zoomed in slightly different places. And so this is kind of convenient, is you can also, after you've zoomed in, go to Match Location. And that will zoom in the same spot in each picture. And I find that really good in terms of if I'm trying to decide, if I have the same picture over and over again, to see what one spot in that picture looks like. So that's pretty convenient. And then you can go right back to the icon that says Consolidate all, and they all come back together. Now, normally the old way that you would open images would be to float all in the window. And maybe you've seen people do this when, see that right there? Like when they double click on 100 images and they all start opening on the desktop and then they freak out. I've seen that happen a million times. So one thing you could do when they all open is you could go back to the icon and say consolidate all, and they'll go back into that tabbed location, and then you can close them all at once. So now that we've got that interface down, let's talk a little bit about what are now called the panels. And the panels, which used to be called palettes, and by the way, quite often I will still say palettes instead of panels, because I think they just called it panels so they could charge more for the program or something. I'm not sure. Anyway, so you have to now say panels because I guess these do operate slightly differently. And I'm going to go to the basic workspace, which is called Essentials, which you see right here. And this is what they've determined is, you know, sort of a basic user group that most people use this. But we're going to actually set up our own workspace for this class. And so just because you see this out here, if you look under Window, there's all these other panels that are hiding. So you can configure these panels in any way you want. In our case, layers is going to be one of the most important, especially for this project. We don't need channels for now. And so what I'm going to do is, if you can see this little set of bars with an arrow, it's a flyaway window, and I'm just going to say close. And let's keep masks. And I'm going to close the color swatches and style. So I'm going to click on that and say I'm going to close the entire group. So now I have paths, layers, and I'm going to switch the order of these two. So it's layers and paths, adjustments, masks, and there's one more palette that I want to bring out, or panel, and that would be history. So I'm going to bring out the history, and so you just click on that, it brings it out. The other thing is all of these panels now can be combined into kind of super groups, like this one right here is a super group, or see how it all moves together, so I could put everything on the left hand side if I wanted to. Or you could separate them out by actually grabbing the white tab, and there's a difference between the gray bar up here and the white tab. The gray bar will move the whole thing. The white tab, you could actually peel these adjustments away and have it separate, and then if you want to put them back in, you drag in, and I don't know if you could see this, but there's a blue highlight that goes around the panel that the group that you're about to combine it with. Also, if you click on this gray space, it collapses the entire thing into just little icons. So this is helpful, I guess, if you know, the whole idea behind panels is, and the arrangement of panels, and it's endless now. I feel like I could spend the entire course just talking about panels, arrangement areas, custom arrangement areas. It's endless. So for now, I'm only going to show you what you need to know. But the whole idea about these collapsible panels now, I'm double clicking on the gray space. You can also use this little arrow right here. But the concept is that you buy yourself as much real estate for your donut as opposed to having the palettes overtake the picture. And so in this case, let's say I didn't need any palettes. I could just collapse the palettes, move them over to the side, and I've got my history right here in a little mini icon set. But a lot of the time, if I have a palette or panel open, let's say layers, I really am using it. So I don't want just a little icon. I actually want that sitting out here, because I'm using the layers constantly. So a little icon isn't going to help me. So maybe I keep those, keep the layers out. And all of these panels too can be expanded just by dragging the corner, getting a double arrow. So as you build up layers, you're going to need more space. But it's important to really know how to manage them. Otherwise, lots of times I'll see people working and they'll have they'll just have everything covering up their image like this. And then they're trying to work, then they click on their image and the palettes are gone. So for this, I actually think that this is helpful. And notice as I drag this, there's kind of like a little blue magnetic bar that makes them kind of stick together. And I'll actually put this inside the paths. I'll put the masks up there, and I'm just keeping my layers. So ultimately, what I want you guys to do when you come into the classroom is actually make your own custom layout for the class. And it's going to include the following things. You might want to write this down: layers, masks, adjustments, paths, and history. So those what is that, 5 things? Have those out, and instead of just having essentials at this point, what we're going to do is save this workspace. And so this will be an exercise in class. Save the workspace, and I'm going to call it Photo 9 Workspace. So every day when you come in, you'll just go straight to that workspace, and you know you've got the panels you need. Then as we keep working, you'll change that. You know, we'll have different workspaces even for each project. So if another student came in, they could go to Essentials, and then and it'll go back to the default position of the panels, and then you can just go in and click on, Photo 9 Workspace, and it lays out everything for you. So ultimately, that's just the beginning of how to set up your desk and how to deal with the interface here. That's it.